All right, guys, we are back to dissect and just get more context in general on what we just listened to.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say dissect. I would say dig into, because we got the musical context, but I don't think either one of us got the story from it or exactly what was going on. It's definitely a very, very intense track.
Tell there was highs and lows. There was triumphant vibes. There was frail, somber moments, and so just some kind of story of the human experience in some context, some sense.
Let's see what it's about. In an interview, Peter Gabriel summed up Supper's Ready as a personal journey, which ends up walking through scenes from Revelation in the Bible. Okay. I'll leave it at that. That makes sense, because at one point he says, like, the Lord of all lords, King of all kings, which is obviously a biblical reference. But I thought he was just meaning, like, some great entity or whatever. Or maybe talking of himself as, like, this immaculate king. But weird that he's literally walking through scenes from Genesis. Or from Revelations. Okay, so these are the sections. The sections, first one is Lover's Leap, then the Guaranteed Eternal Sanctuary Man, then Ignaton, I don't know, something like that. Ignaton, and Itzicon, and the Band of Merry Men.
Okay.
Then number 4 is How Dare I Be So Beautiful.
Okay.
Dang, that's kind of a cool title. Number 5 is Willow Farm, and number 6 is Apocalypse in 9/8.
Okay.
Then number 7 is As Sure as Eggs is Eggs. Aching Men's Feet. What wild titles.
Okay.
I'm so confused. I could not be... this definitely didn't add any clarity.
When reading the words of the underlining message makes it more confusing.
Yeah.
So the whole band is credited to writing the song. So they did this whole thing together.
In various interviews, Banks mentioned that he composed several of the musical progressions while still at university. Gabriel authored most or all of the lyrical content, as well as Willow Farm section. Collins apparently contributed much to the arrangement and segues from one section to another.
See that?
In Olivier Lecart's book, Genesis, Mike Rutherford hints that he was responsible for the rhythm of the Apocalypse in 9/8.
Okay, so it seems they each had like a leading role in various sections, but overall they all work together.
That does honestly kind of clear up the way that something like this could be written, like a giant epic where, okay, lyrically, some guy's tackling most of that. You definitely can add input, but the story is told by one guy. Then also the actual song sections are written by like individual people. And the segues, maybe some guy's really good at being able to go from one to the next, so he like writes the tie-ins.
Yeah, because you don't just want like each song or each kind of like chunk that's in the story to sound completely musically different.
Yeah.
You know, but if all the transitions are pretty similar, the lyrical style is similar throughout, then it kind of still gives that cohesive element to the song.
I think the next step is probably to dive into the lyrics, so we're just going to go read those real quick.
Yep.
There's an angel standing in the sun, and he's crying with a loud voice. This is the supper of the mighty one. Lord of lords, King of kings, has returned to lead his children home, to take them to the new Jerusalem. Angel standing in the sun. I mean, it just sounds like he's talking about God.
It seems that way. So it also seems like after everything is said and done, whether it's your nation's leader and or let's say your country has like a religion that goes throughout the country, whoever is that divine-esque entity that you and all the people like look up to, whether you want to or not, it's just kind of the way it is. You know, you kind of fit in your place. They're basically it's almost like their celebratory kind of like address to their people, essentially.
You know what? Almost feels
in some ways.
It feels darker than that to me.
Think so?
It feels a lot darker because there's an angel standing in the sun and he's crying with a loud voice. This is the supper of the mighty one. Now, what is this? It doesn't seem like it's actual food. I'm going back to the human bacon part.
Yeah.
I think he's talking about this society is the supper of the one who's above you, right? Like the feast is all of it. The feast is the struggle. The feast is you coming home and being reunited with your wife and being happy and flourishing in his kingdom. That's his feast.
Yeah.
That's all his to take, right? Or to use, to dispose of, to use as a tool. Like to Mark with human bacon, he's the butcher, right? He's the guy that is making you go to those places.
All of this.
Yeah. And so when he sees the end result of everything that's gone on, and you have somebody crying, whether it's from a loudspeaker or literally an angelic voice like from the heavens, it doesn't matter. He's going, my supper is all of you.
Yeah, it could also be even in context similar again to Won't Get Fooled Again from The Who, where after all is said and done, your new ruler, you know, you might say Won't Get Fooled Again, but you know, chances are it's going to be very similar over a course of generations or their age or whatever. But either way, it's like he's had breakfast and lunch, which might have been your enemies, but now it's like you
supper's ready.
Like you're still under the umbrella of influence and control of the one who facilitated the facade or the arrangement of the conflict or whatever it is in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
not like you're not going to get eaten.
this is.
I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot. I think.
Yeah. This was just an attempt, kind of. Really.
If we had to, if we were paid enough to come up with like 30 different story arcs of what this means, you probably could.
Yeah.
Like, because just like different deviations that you could go to where it's like, what does this mean? Does this mean this, or that? It's like, hey, for this run, let's say this.
Yeah.
And then like, what branch does that lead you down? Like, feels like there's so many different rabbit holes or branches of interpretation.
Yeah, this is super, super dense is what we're finding out, which is why we wanted to do it in like a separate video, just because it's just so much.
Yeah, not sure how this, like, 'cause I feel like in terms of individual stanzas and maybe the gist, I think we got a lot. I think we got a lot of good here. I think we hit it with at least like let's say 70% accuracy on at least themes. But I wonder how this like ties back to what they might be experiencing, like what made them want to write this in the first place.
Here's my issue with that. Here's my issue, because there are people all the time that, whether it's poets, authors, songwriters, who leave like vague interpretations up, and 95% of the time I think that's crap. I think it's bullshit. I think that they don't, like, they wrote something that was pretty poetic and could, like, a lot of parts that could be really cool, but they didn't really know how it was all going to fit together. And because of that, they don't tell you. But I feel like most of the time when somebody has like a way intricate story, like Think the Wall, they could tell you what that story is about.
Yeah.
Right? And they could tell you, oh, this small detail here still ties back to the whole story. Whereas this could be the case, this could not be the case. But my like radar detectors go off anytime somebody's like, oh, I leave the interpretation up to the audience. Like, the audience didn't write it.
Yeah, because it's almost when you are so clear cut and specific in defining an idea, it leaves room for people to, let's just say, like, disagree in general or have their own like rebuttal or general thoughts on your, let's say, like, opinion. Whereas this is so open ended on so many levels to where you can't not read it and see things that don't make sense when you place it in different categories. I feel like you take any like chunk of 10 lines, you could find like analogies to whether it's probably even like the modern world you could apply like this section to. But if you try and take the entire thing and say, why did they write this song? What is this song about? You're not going to be able to really do it. Or if you do, you're almost like serving the artist in a way that they didn't even like intend on, really.
Yeah, I just think anytime you have too much vagueness and non-specificity, lines, there is no bad line when you're vague. Yeah. Right? You could say something absolutely ridiculous. Like, you're not going to hear like Supper's Ready in most contexts for other songs, or like The Lord of All Lords, King of All Kings in a rock song. And in any other context, it would sound weird. But when you're this vague and esoteric, like, it really does come across as like, maybe I just don't have the interpretation right. I don't know enough. And so I just kind of like better when artists at least give like an overall, like, here's the theme, here's the idea. Like, they don't need to parse apart every little line for you. But I think if they give you the overall idea, I mean, he kind of did when he was like loosely based on Revelations or parts of it. But it's like, but what was your point? Like, give us like a thing sometimes. And I know not all artists do that for the same reason of like being vague, because there is no full context. Yeah. But I know a lot of them do.
Now, I think they kind of built a lot of like general, like you said, like vague, open-ended ideas, and they gave you kind of one jab of their actual opinion, which is, I think, the Winston Churchill in Drag. That's their one kind of like dig or jab. And then everything else is almost like they want you, or they're setting you up to interpret the rest of it and almost like apply it in some type of context involving either him or what he might represent, or something along those lines. Because they did give us something, and that was like, that's very like specific, very much like in his time, his father's time, or whatever, to where he 100% has an opinion on it in general. And I think is, I guess, just painting or setting a scene for you to maybe not like share his opinion, but to like build like an atmosphere or like a stage and let you look at, the elements in play around this like concept being like Winston Churchill, but in context of like this type of like story.
It doesn't bother you when a band is too vague in something like this?
No, because I take it, I guess, as serious as like they do, or as specific as like they do. So it's kind of similar to like when John Lennon made the song like "I'm the Walrus" as like like an ammunition in people always trying to like over dissect his lyrics and stuff. And so I feel like at this point, if I read through it, like, very specifically, listen to it a couple of times, and I can't tell like very obviously like what you're talking about, then I'm just gonna assume that like that's not the intention like of the piece, like, because I don't think like they want, like, I don't think Genesis wants the audience to like work super hard to get it. So if you don't like get it after giving it like a good read and a good couple listens, then I think the point is almost to kind of like set you up in a certain frame or a certain state of mind, and then kind of give you like that one jab of like real world modern information, Winston Churchill, and then give you this context and think about that.
Just stimulate
like, what
you.
You will
Be
you know
like,
what I mean?
we didn't really have a point for this other than to write it, and so if you're not going to get something off the bat, then we just want to stimulate you.
Yeah, it's almost like imagine like somebody is like they're in like a sleep lab, they're dreaming, and then they have scientists like playing like classical music or playing music that's has dissonance and is going to make them uncomfortable, but and then gives them like one like clip of like, let's say like almost like a meme or like almost like a TikTok sound, something that they will recognize, like something that's recognizable, and then letting them like the state that they're now in, like letting their mind play off that, almost like you're now in this state of mind. Here's this information that you are like that you do know about. Like, you don't know anything about Revelations, that's fine. Here's something that you do know about, and then like we built this so you can your mind can almost like subconsciously like react to it. Next thing you know, you're having thoughts that you just wouldn't have even thought about if they told you a straight answer or something.
Yeah.
But I don't think like that they have some hard opinion, idea, or agenda they are trying to at least like up front, instill in the listener more than they are just trying to get you to think about stuff. I think they just want us to think.
I think so too. Well, we definitely tried our best.
Jesus.
So thank you, Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, Steve Hackett, Tony Banks, and Mike Rutherford.
We did our best. Let us know how we did in the comments.
I don't think they're going to be in the comments. They might be though. If you know any of them,
I meant the people listening to this, watching this video. Let us know how you think we did, what you think the song's about.
This is long, man. Let us know
right?
if you like more of these like deep lyric dives, because this does take a lot of time. Like, and we'll give it our all. Like, this was. I mean, I'm sure you saw steam coming out of both me and Andy's ears at some point.
We're thinking
hard,
throwing ideas.
Yeah.
So
let us know how close we were. Let us know your interpretation. Let us know how far we were off. It's cool, and tell us if you want us to do more of this. With that being said, catch you next video.
Peace.